Hello and welcome to my video essay. Nowadays, everyone has a phone and is interconnected via the internet, but there are some trademarks. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm talking about mobile phone surveillance. People today are aware of this thanks to Edward Snowden exposing the NSA, but now everyone is aware of that fact. But what does that tell us about our lives in private while we use our phones? Are we more secure because of this awareness, or is it more controlling than caring? But first, what is care? Care, as defined by Chatzidakis and Andreas, is a concept where everyone is responsible for hands-on care work and the maintenance of communities. A concept where care is in the front and center of society. However, governments neglect this by providing security, market efficiency, and corporate interests while neglecting social security, housing, and community support. Because of this, carelessness reigns. But how does mobile phone surveillance relate to this? Mobile phones extend this latter version of care by using certain features of a mobile phone. For example, in 2019, a Moroccan activist and human rights lawyer received suspicious text messages. By clicking the links, spyware was installed on their devices to track calls, chats, and geolocation. This software was attributed to an Israeli-based NSO company, and this is one of many forms of spyware used by governments. A data consultant firm, Cambridge Analytica, harvested more than 50 million Facebook profiles without their consent. They were able to do this by building a quiz app called This Is My Digital Life, which initially profiled 27,000 users, and through network analysis methods, were able to access 50 million of users' data. This is an example of private corporations collaborating with governments to access and survey people's data. But not only does mobile phone spyware can be accessed by governments or corporations, but the consumer market can also participate. Research by Women's Aid in the UK suggested that 29% of abuse victims experience the use of GPS locators. In Australia, surveys of domestic abuse practitioners report 74% use tracking, and in the US, 72% were stalked using an app, GPS, or location tracking device. But mobile surveillance can also be used for non-nefarious reasons. Surveillance can be a crucial component of care. Research by Abu-Laban found that in Western countries, new parents, especially mothers, use digital video baby monitors. The vulnerable also get a benefit. However, both can be interpreted as oppressive. Baby monitoring can be seen as a masculine form of control, and for the vulnerable, it can hinder an individual's independent living. In a medical context, surveillance can also help stop the spread of rabies. In Tanzania, mobile phones were used by medical professionals. Phones were used as forms for reporting bites, PEP use, and rabies deaths. The usability of the device also needed minimum experience to use, as users were already familiar with the usage of mobile phones. Data collection using the system greatly improved quality, timeliness, and cost effectiveness. But how do we prevent governments from overstepping their authority? Stevens and a research of resistance studies argues that resistance doesn't have to be reactive or destructive, but there are multiple perspectives of resistance that reshape the power relations. Care does not inherently mean control, but can be renegotiated and open to more participatory forms of governance. Ratto, Matt, and Megan Bowler suggest that DIY citizenship, which emphasizes citizen-led participation, can make a meaningful democracy by not having top-down decision-making, but by individuals collectively deliberate, debate, and challenge. Instead of coercion or monitoring by mobile phones, DIY citizenship emphasizes care through participation and community-driven democracy. We don't have to necessarily eliminate this technology, but find ways that make mobile phone surveillance truly care for people, such as for medical and family care, instead of control. We can't exactly predict how mobile surveillance technology will evolve, but by collectively addressing ethical concerns, we can have the opportunity to guide its use toward true care rather than control. Whether for medical support, family protection, or public safety, Surveillance can be a tool that serves society instead of restricting it. The future depends on our vigilance, participation, and creativity in using these technologies responsibly.